Hi everyone, we're back in the Toyota Solutions studio with another mother of invention, Maile Molin, who is the founder of English at Work, bringing English education, really, especially to the immigrant community. Maile, it's great to see you again.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see where the organization has come. But why don't you start by talking about the concept of English at Work and how you came up with it?
Absolutely. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thanks again for letting me come back. The concept, English at Work's mission is to provide customized English classes to immigrants and refugees at the workplace. So there are three elements of that mission. The first is that the classes are taking place for immigrants and refugees. Typically in service industry jobs, or at least that's how we started, so hotel housekeepers, restaurant busboys, those types of positions. And so those were both immigrants and refugees. Up until recently, Texas had the highest number of refugees settled in any state in the country.
And English at Work started in Texas.
Yes, English at Work started in Texas, absolutely. So we serve immigrants and refugees. We bring classes to the workplace because when immigrants were asked what was making it hard for them to learn English, they said, I can't make it to English class for three reasons. One, transportation, two, work schedule, and three, childcare issues. So by bringing the class to the workplace and by embedding it in the work schedule, we take care of pretty much all three of those challenges. And then the third element of the mission is that the classes are customized to that workplace. So the class that's taking place at a hotel looks a lot different than the class that takes place at a restaurant or on the manufacturing line.
So there's different vocabulary, for example. Who teaches these classes? We
have paid instructors who go to those businesses, and that was something that differentiated us early on from your typical English as a second language program. A lot of those programs rely on volunteers, and that's wonderful. That's the way most English classes, I think, happen in this country. But we found that by paying our instructors and by training them in our model, our students were making faster gains in language compared to other programs.
How did you convince employers and how did you approach them about hiring this service? What was the sell?
There are two ways that we sell it. There are some employers who immediately understand that there's an ROI to it. There's a return on investment that they'll get. If they invest in their current workforce and they give them the language skills they need, not only to help customers but also to be safer on the job, that's quantifiable to them. There's another type of employer who does it because they want to give back to this workforce that they're so grateful to. And what's interesting is over time working with employers, they start to see both benefits, and that's kind of our sweet spot.
Just the approach, I think, is really innovative. And in 2014, you were awarded a Mother of Invention recognition from Toyota. They always like to recognize innovators in the field. What did that mean for you personally back then?
It was so exciting. I mean, first of all, to be awarded a grant from the Mother of Invention program, it was huge. We were always, at that time, kind of on a shoestring, and so it allowed us to really grow the program. Immediately after getting the Mother of Invention grant, we were able to expand into Houston. So now we're in Austin, our headquarters is in Austin, but we're also serving hundreds of students in Houston, and that's great. The other thing that it did that to this day I think is even more important than the money was that it really elevated our visibility. I mean, English at Work, in my opinion, was an organization that it certainly wasn't a household name in Austin, but once people heard about the mission, they thought, oh, that makes so much sense. Now, a lot more people in Austin and in Houston know about us because of the visibility that we got through Mothers of Invention and through the Women in the World and the Toyota connection.
You know, immigrants and refugees, the groups that, you're hoping to target with English at Work have been so maligned in the last year in this country and in the national political debate about illegal immigration. How I'm sure you still, to some degree, interact with the students. I wonder, do you have any insights into how that rhetoric is affecting those communities?
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. I mean, and especially in Austin, I don't know if people who don't live in Texas remember this, but a few months ago, the Trump administration was targeting Austin specifically with immigration raids. And during that time, our students, we would get them together to ask them how they were feeling. And we heard terrible stories from students, like their children were terrified that they were going to come home and their parents would be missing. Or one of our students' children was so worried about it one night that she started throwing up because she was afraid that her parents were going to disappear. Yeah, so it's unfortunately
super stressful.
It's so stressful, and it's stressful on the parents, and it's stressful on their children who are citizens of the country, right? And that could have long-term effects on these kids' education, which of course then has a ripple effect for the parents. I mean, it's a really tough time for them.
Learning English, I imagine, is part of the integration into American society. I mean, it's so important on a practical level, but also in feeling like, you know, if you do get stopped by a cop, you can like express yourself.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things we had to start talking about in the last years. If you get pulled over by local law enforcement, or worse, if Immigration and Customs Enforcement shows up at your apartment, you need to communicate certain things to them. But if that officer doesn't speak Spanish, which is what most of our students speak, you might not be able to defend yourself as well. So it has definitely become a much more urgent need in the last year.
Where would you like to see English at Work go from here?
Thank you for asking that. I'm so much in the sort of program-minded so often, but I think that we would definitely like to expand the relationship building that we do between our students and their English-speaking coworkers. One of the really interesting and exciting reports that we get from employers is that not only do the classes help the English learners improve, but it helps them interact better with their native English-speaking coworkers.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yes, it does. But it was never something that I set out to do. And what I have realized over the years is peacemaking happens when people start speaking across language barriers and cultural barriers. And so I would like for us to invest in that more as a program, especially in times like this when there's so much division.
And there needs to be much more understanding.
Yes. Yes.
Maile Molin, it's such a pleasure to see you again. Congratulations on all the success of English at Work.
Thanks.
And have fun at the summit.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.